I'm here to say the opposite of what everyone else says. You never want to be completely hands-off and delegate everything. You hear so many coaches, mentors, business advisors, consultants that tell you you need to delegate and be completely hands-off. Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you from experience that I disagree with that statement. Welcome back to the Investor Dave Show, where I'm your host, Dave. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified, and smash the like button to help me with the YouTube algorithm. Now let's dive into it. Please note that I don't completely disagree with all the people that I mentioned before. However, I do want to give you my 2 cents from my experience. I do agree with delegating work, with having a team, with letting other people make decisions. Otherwise, you can't grow, right? You become your own bottleneck. But what I disagree with is completely removing yourself from it and separating yourself from your business. That is never a good idea. And I'll give you some examples of what we did and how it blew up in our face. So first off, let's talk about property management. Mel and I had started out managing all our own units with having full-time jobs and having 3 kids. We had about, I think, 18 buildings and 70 or 80 units. And we were doing it full-time and we became the bottleneck. So we decided, why don't we hire an in-house property manager? We'll make them staff so that way we can control what they do. And that sounds like an awesome idea, which we did. So we hired a property manager and they took care of all the buildings. Eventually, we got so comfortable that we completely removed ourselves from the entire property management aspect, from the day-to-day, from rent collection, from maintenance, and all the other things that come with property management, that we woke up to a disaster. Because we were completely removed, our standards and our policies and our ethics were not being upheld to our level. So once we kind of dove back in, once tenants started getting a hold of us indirectly, we realized, OMG, things are not getting done. So we dove back into the property management. We made sure that all repairs and maintenance were done on time and professionally. We made sure that rent was collected. We made sure that all fire inspections and building codes were up to par. So once we dove back in, we realized we would never completely be removed. So this is what I suggest with property management. You don't need to necessarily know everything that's going on and be involved in every meeting and make sure that all the rent is collected. However, you do need to receive reports. You do need to receive updates. You need to be in the know enough to make sure that this is being taken care of at the level that you want it. So that's the property management example that I have for you. Next up, lawyers and attorneys. Now here's a little story. We were selling a duplex and I know my lawyer can do this in his sleep. However, when we were going through the statement of adjustments, I made sure to dot the I's and cross the T's. There was a tenant that was actually moving out in the month of possession and they were using up their last month's rent. So going through the statement of adjustment, I noticed that, oh wait, why am I giving last month's rent to the new purchaser? The tenant is actually using it right now. A very minor mistake. Just because they are a lawyer and they have all this education doesn't mean they're not human, doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes or have oversight. So that's an example where, as much as I trust my lawyers and I love them and we have a great relationship, make sure to double check everything you sign, everything you do, because again, they're human beings like everyone else. Next up, accountants and CPAs. My most recent example for you is we are creating another corporation in order to purchase assets in Costa Rica, Mexico, and other international places. Now, dealing with the CPA, they wanted to structure us a certain way to best help us tax-wise. And I trust them, and again, I have utmost respect for them. However, when I looked at how they wanted to structure the corporation in order to own the assets, I realized that they were strictly doing it on an accounting best practice structure and not necessarily thinking of the liability, right, which a lawyer would do. So I kind of caught it, made sure that they spoke to the lawyer and made sure that they would rectify it so that not only did it make sense accounting-wise, but also made sense liability-wise. Dotting the I's, crossing the T's, respecting the fact that you have professionals doing things, make sure that you're the one that reviews the final document to make sure that everything is okay for you. Next up, financial controller. RRSPs, right? The secured funds. If you're interested in learning how to use those for real estate, click on the link up here and it'll take you to our secured funds video. But this is a real life scenario that happened about a couple of months ago. I was looking at taking my secured fund, which I have in the form of a lira that I got from my firefighting pension that I cashed out when I retired or quit my job. Those funds, I told someone that I would lend them out to them. Now, the problem is that I asked my financial controller who I hired to take care of my day-to-day big picture finances, I asked them, how much do I have left in my secured funds to lend out in the form of mortgages? They gave me a certain amount. So I trusted them and thought, I don't need to double check. They know what they're talking about. And I said, so-and-so, I will lend you, and I negotiated a deal with them, I will lend you X amount of secured funds in order to put it as a mortgage for your income property. Well, guess what, right? Because I was completely hands-off, it blew up in my face again. And what happened was he actually looked at just the surface value, right, of how much was there and not of how much I had already lent out and what was left over. So what ended up happening is I ended up looking like in front of the person I was lending to. Meanwhile, all I was doing was trusting my team. Now, this is a real scenario that was embarrassing. However, I learned from it. And that's where you end up getting better as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and as a real estate investor, is you start to learn, before I put my money where my mouth is, I should check out my numbers and double check what other people have told me. Last but not least, I've had this exact same scenario with office staff. Now, this is not to say that it was their fault or that they were doing anything maliciously. It's just once someone starts, you train them, you just think, okay, they know what they're doing now. I never need to check up on them. I can delegate things and be completely hands-off. Again, this was a mistake that we made. So now we make sure to have monthly meetings, little follow-ups, little stand-ups, all sorts of different types of contact with our office staff to make sure that they always know what the vision is of the business, what the vision is of the company, where we want to go, how we want things done, so that they can do their job to the best of their potential. Again, you can never truly be hands-off in any of your businesses, because when you come back to it, you're going to find that it's no longer your company. Things are not running the way you want it to be. And then you've got to basically reverse a whole whack of things as opposed to just guiding people along the way. So in conclusion, yes, you can be somewhat hands-off. However, the way I like to look at it is be the bridge that connects everything overall, as opposed to being an island all off on your own. Hey, what do you think of this video? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I out to lunch? Comment below, let me know what you think. So make sure to check out our other business video about That's Not Fair, a line that should not be in your vocabulary. I'm Investor Dave, and I'm out.